Okay, let's talk about overcoming disruptions to our routines or setbacks in our plans, right? Because this can have a really profound impact on us personally and professionally. Now, we can look at this from two angles. We can look at this from the neuroscience and also the philosophy side, and both of these offer insights into why these disruptions affect us so much, why they occur, and why does it affect us so much. Now, from a neuroscience perspective, our brains are wired to create habits and to create routines that are going to allow us to conserve energy and make more efficient use of our resources, and that includes our cognitive resources. So when we encounter a disruption to our routine or our plan, what that does is it creates a shift, and this shift requires us to use more of our cognitive resources to adapt and overcome the new situation. And we don't like that. Now, that leads us to a range of different negative feelings, which can include things like stress, anxiety, and it can also lead to fatigue, because a lot of our energy is being used for things that we didn't plan for it to be used for. And this impacts our ability to perform at our best. This is why we talk so much about routine. But it doesn't always go to plan, does it? Now, one of the key regions of your brain which is involved in habit forming is your basal ganglia. Now, this region is responsible for regulating and automating many of our routine behaviors. So when we encounter a disruption to that routine, our basal ganglia has to work harder to be able to adapt to the new situation. And this is what can lead us to those feelings of mental fatigue. Now, also, disruptions to our routine, they also impact our prefrontal cortex, and that's responsible for our executive functions like decision-making, planning, and problem-solving. So the prefrontal cortex, it's heavily involved in our ability to manage our emotions and also our impulses, which can be critical in situations when we need to adapt to a disruption. So when we encounter a disruption, it's our prefrontal cortex that has to now work harder to regulate our emotional response. And this leads to feelings of stress and anxiety. And those same feelings of stress and anxiety start to short circuit things in our prefrontal cortex that allow us to make these better decisions and deal with stress and deal with anxiety. So we end up just in this tumultuous circle where we're going around and round and round, and the thing that's supposed to be helping is now hurting, and vice versa. So if you're one of those people that gets really thrown when your routine is out of whack or when there's a setback to your plans, just know that this is where it's really coming from. It's coming from the use of your resources in a way that wasn't planned, and it's changing the whole energy game plan of the day, of the week, of the month, and we've got to adapt, and that takes energy, and that takes us away from being at our peak in other areas. Now, from a philosophical perspective, disruptions to our routine or our plans can also impact our own sense of agency and control over our lives. Now, there was a philosopher, what was his name? Maybe Albert Camus, and he argued that humans have an innate desire for meaning and for purpose in their lives, and the best way that we know how to get those things is to put a routine around it and go out and get them. So when we encounter a disruption, it can challenge our sense of purpose and it can disrupt our sense of agency. For example, if we've been working towards a particular goal, and there's a really clear path laid out in front of us, and we encounter a setback or there's a change to those plans, it can be really difficult to maintain our motivation and our sense of purpose. Now, this can lead to feelings of disillusionment. Why is this happening? What's going on here? Maybe it's not worth it. Also frustration. Damn, I really wanted to do that. I had that plan for today. Now I've got to make other plans. And all of these things, they seem like microscopic and things where we should just be able to dust it off and go about our day. And sure, we could. But it really impacts our ability to perform at our best. Disruptions to our routine also challenge our sense of control over our lives. We often rely on routines and plans to provide us with a sense of predictability and a sense of control over our lives. And when these routines are disrupted, it challenges challenges our sense of control, our sense of autonomy. And this can be unsettling, and this can lead to feelings of anxiety and feelings of stress. So, how can we mitigate the impact of disruptions on our professional and our personal performance? Well, one strategy is to build resilience and to build flexibility into your routines and plans. Start to become a little bit more emotionally agile. Especially if you notice that routines or breaks in your routines or setbacks tend to fire you up. When we do that, the only way that we get better at things is by practicing them, and what we practice is what we get better at. So you should try to intentionally introduce variability into your routine if you're one of those people that finds it hard, because this is when we can train our brains to be more adaptable and less reliant on a rigid outcome, because that's not real life. Things happen and they can throw us off course. It's our goal and it's our role to get ourselves back on course. Now, another strategy that we can use to help us with this is to practice mindfulness and to practice self-awareness. Now, when we become more attuned to our thoughts and to our emotions, we're able to better regulate our response to disruptions, and we're able to avoid becoming overwhelmed by stress and overwhelmed by anxiety. This is the state where we can just let it roll off our back, and it's not that much of a big deal. And from a philosophical perspective, it can be really helpful to cultivate a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning that is not solely tied to our goals and plans. And by finding meaning and purpose in the present moment, you're going to be able to maintain a sense of agency and a sense of control over your life, even in the face of disruption and even in the face of setbacks. So while disruptions to our routine or our plans can have a significant impact on our professional and personal performance, from a neuroscience perspective, disruptions hit us a little bit harder than that. They really zap our energy. And this is from having to recalibrate and adapt and do things on the fly. And these are things which we might be capable of, but we haven't planned for them. So this can lead us to mental fatigue. This can lead us to stress, frustration, anxiety. And we don't want those things. We don't want mental fatigue. We don't want stress. We don't want anxiety. Disruptions can also challenge our sense of agency and our control over our lives. So by building resilience and flexibility into our routines, we can make plans to introduce some irregularities, some inconsistencies, practice some mindfulness, practice self-awareness. And if we do that, we're going to be able to mitigate the impact of the disruptions and maintain our performance in the face of adversity, in the face of disruption, and in the face of setback, because that's real life. These things are going to happen, and it doesn't matter that they happen. It's about your ability to be able to dust yourself off and not be reliant on external things, making sure that you can keep walking forward on your own path towards your own goals, and that any little things that might blow you slightly off course, you're able to correct, bring it back into course relatively easy, and go about your business, because that's what we're here to do. Bye for now.